speech today, the first prepared speech, is called an icebreaker. The objectives of this particular speech are the following: to begin speaking before an audience, to discover your speaking skills that you have, and to discover the speaking skills you need to develop, and basically to introduce yourself to the club. Now, this speech has a slightly abbreviated time. It's 4 to 6 minutes. Our first speaker grew up in Northern California, and he counted cards playing blackjack in Nevada, in the casinos, to put himself through college. He's been an attorney and a successful trader, and he's lived in Manhattan's Upper West Side for almost 20 years. His icebreaker speech is called, "What Cards Were You Dealt?" Help me welcome David Abramovitz.
What cards were you dealt? In life, I was not dealt a winning hand. But I want to let you know how I played the game. Because in my life, playing the game has been important, even though the cards have been against me. I have had some tremendous early losses and some tremendous wins. But what I'm most proud of is always having stayed in the game. I want to tell you what's allowed me to stay in the game. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow SEC Roughriders, and most welcome guests. My earliest hand that I was dealt turned out to be a real bust. When I was 3 years old, my successful 31-year-old attorney father went down in a plane in California. Poof, like that, he was gone. I'm not sure to this day why, but my mother took me and my 5-year-old sister to Israel for a time. There we were in Jerusalem when, for a brief period, my sister and I got separated from my mother. And right there on the dusty streets of the old city, my sister turned to me and she said, "David, we will never see Mom again. You need to be afraid." That was an incident of panic, an incident of great fear, and it's one that stays with me to this day. Needing strong male guidance in my life, I was lucky enough to have my grandfather, Sam Abramovitz. Sam gave me influence and unconditional love. And Sam had one child, a son, that was my father, Jess Abramovitz. Sam and I bonded over the game of baseball. We would sit over a transistor radio and listen to game after game after game of our beloved San Francisco Giants. There I learned about competition. I learned about strategy. I learned about perseverance, even when the chips were down. A loss, I was told, was a message to come back for the next at-bat, the next game, the next season, and always to reinvent. There was a lot of pressure on my shoulders to be like my father, the attorney. And I went to law school, and when I was an attorney, rather than feeling the inner success, I felt a loss of myself. I moved to New York, and I reinvented myself as a trader. Surprisingly, I loved it. I made a lot of money, and my job felt like a hobby. I got married, and I had a lovely baby daughter. The love that my grandfather gave me, I give to my precious daughter, Ava. Sounds like a good hand, huh? Well, if that was the end of the game, I wouldn't be up here right now. They reshuffled the deck, and as the market withered. I lost all the money I had made down to a mortgaged apartment in Manhattan. Later, I lost my marriage. I got divorced. That was tough. But do I want you to feel sorry for me as I stand up here? No, I don't. Not at all. Why? Because reinvention has allowed me to find out who I am and has had a profound effect on my life. That fortune that I lost, I took time away from the market for a brief moment. And getting into my love of humor and comedy, I got up on stage and tried my hand at being a comedian for a while. My energy would flourish, and just as that passion began to grow, the market called me back, and I was more successful trading than I had ever been. And I learned a lesson. I never thought I'd say this, but I think everybody should have a chance to lose it all once. Why is that? There's a notification there that if you did it once, you can do it again. I know I did it, and thank God for that. Recently, my passion for trading, and for many reasons, has fallen off a cliff. I know from my experiences that it's time to reinvent again. And like many of you, I am a work in progress. As they shuffle the deck, I ready myself for the next hand. And as I think back and I reflect on the love, the unconditional love of my grandfather and the lessons from the baseball field, I am reminded of last year's World Series winner. I don't know how many sports we have, when the Giants won the World Series. And there was a 50-year drought. I don't know if you remember. And you know what? I turned 50 that year, which is a little strange. But when it happened, I looked up and I said, Papa, we did it. And I think now to myself that the next hand I'm dealt is going to be a big winner. Mr. Toastmasters.